Finally, we made it. We've gone through 7 points of compression that are going to come up in most of your yoga practice. Started here, worked down the spine, down the hip to the knee. Now the final one is the ankle. Now once again, there can be a tensile resistance to how much you flex your ankle, and there's a compressive resistance to how much you can flex your ankle. If it's tensile, it will be the Achilles tendon, which connects to your calf, that will be stretched. And it'll be stretched on the back side when I try to do that. The Achilles tendon attaches right there. And if I try to do that, it stretches. If it's compressive, it'll be on the front side of the ankle. The bone will hit. If Annalisa will kneel down like this for us, and yeah, that's fine, and start to bend her knee. As she tries to bend her knee more, to sink down more, right now her heel's starting to come up. Why is the heel coming up? Because of compression here. If it were tension, she'd have a burning pain here in the Achilles tendon, because she's got a lot of leverage forcing that knee forward, hundreds of pounds of force. She's going to have a little tension here because she's at her extreme, but it's not holding her back. Annalisa's ankle is coming off the ground as she tries to push her knee forward because this angle is not improving. It's compression, bone on bone. She could stay here, and it might be healthy for the bone to compress it once in a while, to stimulate the bone to growth, to keep its density and its health. But is she going to bend anymore? No. This is a compressive problem. This being the case, do you think that Annalisa can squat down and keep her heels on the ground? So try. I'll give her a hand so she doesn't injure herself or anything. She would like to stick her knees forward to counterbalance her butt. But to do that, her heels will have to come off the ground. That's as far as she can go. Is she weak in the thighs? Is she tight in her butt? No, none of that applies. It's just here. All this down here freezes her up here because of this. What if we give Annalisa a board? We've given her that much range of motion to her ankle to start with. Now can she go down and keep her heels down? Look how much further. Can you go any further, or does the heels come up? Yep, keep going. All of a sudden, she's flexible, she's younger, she's stronger, she's sexier. No, all we've done is compensate for her what this little joint all the way down here was making her look more awkward than someone who has great ankles. It wasn't strength, it wasn't flexibilities. Only at the ankle was that a problem. And we'll start again facing this way. We'll use the same ankle. We put the knee back on the ground. I bend mine. It's not, mine's sort of like normal, I guess. Maya starts bending and she stops. Annalisa was here. Paul is here. Real people are here. Freaky kind of people are there. And Maya is kind of like down there. Look how level her thigh is, almost level, because of this. She's got compression the same way Annalisa has compression. But due to the shape of her bones, the ankle and the arch of the foot, due to that shape, her compression is at this point. She also feels a little bit of stretch here, but it's not holding her back. Do you think that she'll be able to squat down with her heels on the ground? There's no doubt about it. Go down slowly, and let's see where Maya stops. There's Annalisa right there. Because Maya's knees can go forward. Keep going. Go all the way down. All the way down. You have it or you don't. We've seen Annalisa's very supple, very flexible woman. If we have her bend forward like this into a forward bend, we can see that, look, the tilt of the pelvis is not at all restricted by any tension in the back of her legs. This is without a warm-up, just pull myself down. So Obviously, she can tilt her pelvis as much as you want, or she wants to tilt herself forward, and she can stretch her legs and keep her heels on the ground. But if we get her into downward dog, she's going to end up fighting against, again, this point of compression that she was born with in her ankle. And she will not be able to keep her heels on the floor, even though the stretch in her hamstrings is far less in the downward dog than it is in this pose. So we ask her to position herself into the downward dog, bring her hands down, walk her feet back to approximately where she would execute a downward dog. Now look, the pelvis is only tilted 90 degrees. She is nowhere near what her hamstrings would allow her. And she can push back as much as she wants. This is not on the ground. Is it because the legs need to be stretched up here? Does some tilting up here need to happen? No. It's because she cannot flex this ankle because it's compressed here. If we would allow her to use her hamstring flexibility, we'd have her walk her butt back by moving her hands back, and eventually, boom, she got her heels on the ground. So if she wanted to have her heels on the ground for some reason, if that aesthetic quality was important to her, she'd have to be at least this wide in her downward dog. But she's got more weight on her legs and less weight on her arms. She's not as effectively bearing weight in her upper body. If Annalisa wanted to use downward dog to train the strength or the flexibility of her upper body, she'd probably want to compromise, do my heels stay on the ground, walk herself out to wherever she felt comfortable working this pose, and now she can push and stretch and bend more because she's bearing more weight in this part of her body, more leverage to stretch herself or to strengthen herself. Stretch herself if she just lets it go, strengthen herself if she fights against it. Whether you do it yin or yang, that's your preference and how you want to do it. But she, because of the ankle, is not going to aesthetically please someone by having the heels on the ground and work the upper body. And even if she could drop her head all the way to the floor, it's not going to change this. It's two different segments of the body. So again, Maya's showing us, hey, I've got the hamstrings too. You ain't got nothing on me. I can stretch my hamstrings. I can go right to there's a point of compression and there's nowhere to go. Okay, so don't count me out just because I have good ankles. I've worked my other body parts too. But because of her ankles, Maya goes into a downward dog, and her ankles are on the ground. Maya can even walk her feet back a little further, and her heels are still on the ground. She might even go back further, but she might slide out from under herself and end up on her head. Because who has the better downward dog here is an aesthetic question. She now has fallen more into her upper body because of the wide downward dog stance. If she wanted to take more of the weight into her legs, she would walk her legs up. And this is where Annalisa had to go just to get her heels on the ground. Maya may never choose to do the downward dog this way. Maybe. Because she'd say, look, if I want a hamstring stretch, I'll walk my legs all the way up. If I want to work my upper body, either passively or contractilely, I'm going to walk my feet way back because that shoves more of my weight into my upper body to give me something to work with or against. And to come up into any mid-range in between is neither a great hamstring stretch nor enough weight for my upper body. But this is just a hypothetical. I mean, she might choose to start in a very modest downward dog to warm up for one or the other of the extremes. But once again, how wide should the downward dog be? Depends on what you want to work. Should your heels be on the ground in downward dog? That may or may not be in your control, depending on how wide you're going to work. That little demonstration of the downward dog brings us to an important point. Posture should be dynamic, living things, not things etched in stone that everyone should do in spite of all their differences of proportions and flexibilities. When we look at a posture, whether it's the downward dog or any other forward bend or any other pose, a more profitable, less dogmatic way to look at it is rather than vote by conference what should it be if it were perfect, as if we were all the same, should just flat out analyze If it's wide, what's being stressed? If it's narrow, what's being stressed? If the heel's on the ground, does it make any difference? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But every one of those variations that you or your students explore may be a very valid thing for them to do. Whereas the standard, whatever the standard is, and whoever decided it was the standard, isn't effective for them. It's not an effective leg stretch, and it's not an effective upper body stretch. It's just the standard that someone picked, probably with proportions much different than yours. So whether it's the downward dog or a forward bend or the lotus pose or a back bend or a headstand, whatever it is, we want to reach out of the box of what's the right way. Because what's right for somebody is wrong for somebody else. These postures, these wonderful yoga postures, have so much potential to do so many things. It's not effective or valuable to try to say, this is the way. With a little anatomical training and a little bit of analysis of what's working what, I encourage you to encourage your students to play with these poses to see how it works for them. All variations are legal. All widths are legal. All hand placements are legal. All foot placements are legal. Are some of those going to be ineffective for some people? Yes. Are some of those going to be possibly hurtful for some other people? Yes. But just because that's the case, why would you not let anybody do them? Because they might get a lot of good out of what's killing somebody else. Why hold back a greyhound because the pit bull can't do it? Or vice versa.